You remember that thing called cash? It was in your wallet, it was made of paper, and you would use it to buy stuff. Well, now, of course, you've got plastic in your wallet, you got a credit card, but many of you also have access to your credit card on your phone. Super easy. Oh my gosh, makes life so easy. But is there a risk that that is going to lead to overspending? Yeah, probably. Now, with these mobile payment apps, you might be spending even more than you intend, more than you would have otherwise. And we're going to talk about some research related to that behavior. Our guest is Yuqian Xu. She is an assistant professor of operations management at Kenan-Flagler Business School at the University of North Carolina. She is co-author of Mobile Payment Adoption, an empirical investigation of Alipay. She's in Chapel Hill, North Carolina. Hello there.
Hi, Bruce. Thank you for having me.
Your research kind of confirms the hypothesis that I think many people would have is that, yeah, of course, we're going to spend more money because it's so easy. Could you paint us a picture of what you found?
Yeah, of course. So in this work, so a little bit of the background, this is a collaboration with one of the leading banks in Asia. So we look into the effects, as Bruce, you correctly pointed out, of the mobile payment adoption before and after the launch of actually one of the world leading mobile payment platform, Alipay. And in general, so mobile payment platforms share a lot of similarities. So you can imagine the counterpart here in the US, such as Apple Pay and Google Pay. So let me start with the most important finding in this paper. As you correctly mentioned, that we reconfirm the intuition that many of us would have. So based on the rigorous causal analysis, we show that the adoption of this mobile payment can increase the total credit card transaction, both the amount and the frequency of the focal bank by like 9.4% and 10.7% respectively.
Wow. Sorry, I just have to let that hang there for a minute. Both of those almost 10%. So amount and frequency. That seems huge.
Exactly. That's a huge. So to elaborate a little bit on this huge 10%, so some statistics has been published to roughly digest a bit how significant the impact would. For example, the recent statistics by Pew Research Center, they show that almost 97% of the US population, use US as an example, use cell phone, and among them, almost 50% of us using the mobile payments. And now shifting our focus to the credit card transactions in the US. And the recent data has also shown that among the big four like credit networks like Visa, Master, American Express, Discover, they reached a total like purchase volume almost about 10.16 billion, a trillion US dollars in 2023. So returning back to our approximately 10%. So if we add on these numbers, it's almost achieved like 500 billion US dollars if you rough calculation of these numbers. So it's a huge impact. Yeah.
And this is fantastic for the sellers of stuff, for the retailers. It's great for those who make their money based on transactions. It's not so great for people who are living at the edge, who are having a hard enough time controlling their spending. Did you learn anything in the nuance of this data amongst those for whom paying their credit card off in full every month was already a challenge? So, I mean, if you've got gobs of money, it doesn't matter if you've increased your spending by 10%, but for most people, that's a big problem.
Yeah, exactly. I think I totally with you, Bruce, on this point. In general, people have shown, not in this particular research paper, but like there's because of the spending more and also repaying the debts over longer periods, especially compounded by factors such as the high inflation, the record high interest rates, taking all the factors into account. So I remember in the last quarter of 2023, actually, for example, in the US, the credit card debt has hit a historical record for almost like, if I remember correctly, 1 trillion US dollar in the fourth quarter of 2023. So all the factors compounded. Yeah.
Now, the 10% increase that you're talking about, nearly 10% on both those two areas, is that versus traditional credit card payments, or is it versus cash?
That's a very, very good point. So in this paper, we look into versus like a traditional credit card payments from both like online and offline channels. But one thing we cannot track in this data set is the cash. But I would expect that because I think decades ago, when people do research looking into the occurrence of credit card substitutes for the cash payment and increases the purchasing. I think we're actually looking at something similar where the new technology substitutes physical card offline, but also increase the payment will also like enlarge the market share of this credit card payment. Yeah.
What are some of the hypotheses that your research offered up in terms of the why? Why is this happening? Why are people spending so much more?
This is a very, very good question. So we specifically we have thought about this question for a while. And I think the major issue, the mechanism at play is the convenience the technology has brought to us. And two things matter here to like manifest this convenience role. The first thing is the aspect of the transaction speed. So recent research, not our paper, but has shown that the average duration of a transaction completed through mobile payment stands at approximately like 30 seconds, 29.5 something seconds. And this is notably shorter compared to the average duration of about 40 seconds for a traditional physical card transactions. So this represents roughly like 37% of the reduction. And this swift transaction process can contribute also to the overall convenience, reduce the waiting time for the transaction process. And also we must also intuitively think that the convenience could also be derived because the absence of the need to carry the additional physical cards or even the wallet. So nowadays, when I go to work, I don't even carry my wallet. So I just need a cell phone. Everybody carries cell phone. So this convenience actually can translate into this increased purchase in our perspective. Yeah.
It seems analogous to people who are trying to live a healthy lifestyle, and they've got a delivery company that shows up at their door every single day with 2 tubs of ice cream, 4 bags of chips, and a case of Coke. It would become very difficult for the average human being to withstand such temptation. This may be outside of the scope of your research, but what advice would you have for people when you recognize this ease and how much it is increasing spending? How do people, barricade themselves off from the negative consequences of this?
Yeah, that's also a very great question. I really like it. So I think I want to emphasize that the results here is not actually led us to worry so much about this. But I think the most important part is rather the awareness of this dynamics and this hidden consequences and the shifts in our consumption behavior. So in general, we live already in a time where technologies are reshaping the landscape of the financial transactions, our behaviors, and the industry dynamics. So we may not even notice about this, but we are spending more with the technological advancements. So it's important that we realize these hidden consequences and come up with a way to actually potentially reduce our own impulsive expenditures and maybe optimize our budget allocation.
You and your co-authors have spent a ton of time working with this data set and analyzing it and looking at hypotheses. As you look out, say 2 to 5 years, what are some of the adjacent research questions that you would love to answer that you weren't able to answer with the data in front of you?
That's a very interesting question. So I have been thinking about that. So there are several things that I'm actually trying to explore and trying to start some new projects into. I want to understand the improvement in the technology with more AI type of models, generative models. How would that actually help build an even better this technology or payment network to improve the trust between the consumer and the technology? So in our academic area, there's a very popular term called technology aversion. So especially when a new technology appears, some people would averse to the new technology. But actually, whenever a technology appears, I think there are advantages, good things like convenience. These are good things to bring to the society. So we want to actually understand what are some factors, elements that we can look into to build the trust and at the same time also to improve the customer experience with this new technology. And this is important in a sense that we not only want to understand it, but we also want to incorporate these factors into the algorithm development, technology development, so that we can offer a better, like more socially responsible like type of tech and like for society.
I feel so deeply ambivalent about this. If I could snap my fingers, I almost, not totally, but almost wish we could just uninvent it. Is that a good idea? Would you support my view? If we could snap our fingers, just take it away.
Yeah, I think another insight is maybe just stop using your credit card, right? To
Yeah.
avoid impulse purchase. Yeah, I totally with you. The thing is that at this time of the time period, at this kind of the time, it's really hard for many of us, including myself, to stop using the technology, stop using the credit card. So I think it's a very important moment. Like there's more people looking to and research and paying attention to these hidden consequences, so that we can actually in our mind build our like a better behavior model, like each consumer of us, for example, to reduce this purchase. For example, just a very like a daily life example, to avoid purchase in the late night. Because research has shown that impulsive purchase is more stronger in the late night because you have less control over your mindset. And maybe like do a utility calculation when you buy something, is that a substitute at home? That do this calculation, I think that's an important thing. And immediately people can do with the awareness of the hidden consequences. Yeah.
Very insightful work. Thank you for joining us to talk about it.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yuqian Xu is an assistant professor at the Kenan-Flagler Business School at the University of North Carolina. She was here to talk about new research on what mobile pay is doing to our spending habits. And as you can predict, it's making us spend more.